Alrighty, guys, welcome to tonight's charting session. It is July 5th. Hopefully, everybody's been having a good week so far. We have not really done a lot of stuff this week because of news. We've had 4th of July, again, bank holiday on Tuesday, so markets were closed. So kind of just been a slow week. We haven't actually taken a single trade all week. Today was our first live session, and it was in the PM because I didn't want to trade AM, especially expecting probably either, slow action or like no entry action. So that's probably what we got in the morning. And I'm excited to get back at it tomorrow and Friday. So let's jump into the charts. And I want to talk about kind of the action that we saw today. Looking back, was there any opportunity that we could have taken if we were to trade? And then we're going to talk about what we're going to be looking at going into tomorrow and Friday and possibly the weeks to come. And then also at the end, we'll do a little answer question Q&A or whatever we want to do, right? Or maybe a replay session. So jumping in, starting off on ES here, looking at the daily again, like we've said before, I am going to continue to be bullish on a bigger time frame until we get displacement back down and we break this low. On a bigger time frame, right, for me to have some sort of bearish bias, I'm going to actually take off all of these drawings here because we don't really need them anymore. Clear this up. For me to be bearish on a bigger time frame, I would need to see this low be displaced through, right? Because this would be our market structure shift, right? We have external liquidity swept. For me to see some sort of thing, I'd have to see, number one, this daily inverse fair value gap get ran through, right? Because I want to see us come back down to this and then bounce. If this gets ran through as well as this fair value gap, then I could expect lower. But the biggest thing is if we come back down to this low and we end up breaking through this with big displacement, then I could expect to see possibly lower in the coming month, to be honest. So until then, on a bigger time frame, I'm still bullish until we get that move back down, right? Again, we're spin super bullish, but even though since we swept this high, I am going to be, more expecting to see a move back down because we swept this. But since, again, bullish market, I'm not going to try to predict what's going to happen, right? Until the market actually shows me that we want to move back lower, then I'm going to use that to my advantage. But right now, I'm going to still be bullish. Now, on a bigger time frame like this, though, I am bearish on a smaller time frame. The reason is because we've just come up. We've swept that 4-hour high. We've now had displacement back down. So zooming in, we're actually forming a bearish model. You can see we came up, swept buy side. Now, we never swept any internal high, but we do have this low here. We have displacement through this. We've now pulled back to discount. Right, pull back to discount. We are still holding and rejecting this 1-hour fair value gap right here. And now starting to sell off. So the biggest thing I'm watching going into tomorrow is, again, seeing if this 1-hour inverse fair value gap continues to hold, right? You can already see it starting we wicked in again. We're still trying to hold, but now we're starting to sell off. So I want to see if that's going to hold as well as we have this big 1-hour fair value gap. So if we end up breaking through this, then I could definitely expect to see lower prices going into tomorrow. So in my opinion, for now, there's not really any strong bias until we see more downside, but I am going to be probably more bearish going into tomorrow. Now, I could possibly see a bounce up. Again, this does possibly look like on a smaller time frame, we could have, liquidity sweep, big move to the upside, coming back. If we continue to hold this, then I could possibly see us come up, sweep these equal highs up here, and then look to maybe see lower. So possibly come up, sweep these highs, and then look to see a move back down. But if we end up breaking through this and showing that we are disrespecting all these bullish PD arrays, then I would expect to probably see lower, and then I would expect the draw on liquidity to be that inverse fair value gap, right? If we look at the daily time frame, we can see we're in this fair value gap right now, but we have this inverse daily fair value gap, right? Once we break through this, I'd want to see this now come back to this and then see if we end up holding here to maybe see higher, or if we come down and end up breaking through this. As well as on a 4-hour, we have this big 4-hour fair value gap here. Again, the same thing. I want to see, are we going to continue to respect this like we have been here? We came down, instantly bounced back up, but now we're starting to sell back off. Are we going to go through this? Which, honestly, I'm probably expecting us to break through this because we swept that high. So if we end up breaking through this, then I do expect the draw to probably be lower. So going into tomorrow on ES, going to have more of a bearish bias just because of the structural we've been seeing. But I could also possibly expect us to come up, maybe sweep these equal highs, and then look to take a short back down is probably what we could see as a good setup going into tomorrow. So let's look at the action in today and see if there was any possible setup. So going into the morning, Let's take kind of all this stuff off because this is kind of, we don't really know it's there yet. Let's kind of go into 9 o'clock. So right before, like 20 minutes before market open, right? So we got, all right, so we have this low being swept, right? We're going in, looking at the 15-minute time frame. We have all these fair value gaps and imbalances over here. We know we can bounce, right? We're coming down. We've swept that level. So what am I looking here to see if I want to take some sort of long, right? Because I would probably be more long biased going into this day, right? We've come down. We're starting to sell off a little bit. Now, we could sell off maybe more, but I wouldn't really try to chase a short until we end up bouncing and maybe look to take a long back up and then look to take a short once we get more structure. So zooming in, we can see, looking at the 5-minute, we can see internal swept. So, okay, so now what would I be looking for, right? This would be my market structure shift. So I'd want to see displacement above this high. There we go. We get displacement. Do we get a fair value gap? We do. We end up getting a 3-minute fair value gap here on this time frame. Come down, right? This would be your long entry. What would you target? Whatever your previous buy side is, right? So this would be your target. Again, market structure shift, or you get liquidity swept, market structure shift. Again, big displacement. Notice we don't just come up, tick this, and then come back. We have a big fair value gap planned here, and the draw on liquidity should easily be that next high. There we go. Ends up getting hit. That could have been a trade earlier in the morning. Now, once we get this break, this would now become market structure shift on a bigger time frame, right? Now that we've swept this. So what would I possibly want to see? Possibly want to see us now come back to here and maybe see a long. We'll see if we end up getting that or not. Looking at the 5-minute, we have this big 5-minute fair value gap. Now, I don't actually think we do. Continuing to push up. Now, do we have, again, we have this 15-minute fair value gap. We have internal being swept right here. Now, it would be probably a lower probable setup to take any sort of short, again, without liquidity being swept. But on a bigger time frame, we know that this is market structure shift, pulling back to discount fair value gap. So this is definitely a valid area to take a short if we do get the right confirmation, meaning we have to see big displacement back down like this, right? This would validate a possible short. Market structure shift, we have a fair value gap. If this pulls back, this would not be a bad short. There we go. We end up ticking there. What would be my targets? First target would probably be this low. My stop would probably be at the highs. And then my other targets would probably be any sort of PD array, right? Looking at the 5-minute, probably any of these fair value gaps, right? So this, again, would be a lower quality setup. And the reason this is lower quality is because there's no liquidity swept, right? We're basing this off of a bit of a bigger model, right? Also looking at this, not a lot of displacement through this level. So that's a little bit, want to watch for that as well. But it's still not a bad setup. So we'll see how this ends up playing out. Comes in, ends up breaking right through this. Now, once we break through this, this tells me the draw is probably higher. Now, we'll see if we end up closing back below. Now, I would probably look to take my position off just to be careful. And the reason is because if this fair value gap looks like it would hold, which it kind of does, right? If we break through this bearish fair value gap here and then come back down to this, I would expect this to bounce to then go to new highs. So I probably would take off that short. Now, once we come up, sweep this high. If we get displacement, again, still would be watching for that. Actually, what time is this as well? 10. Coming back. Now, you kind of get a better setup here, to be honest. And the reason why I say this would be a better short than this is because you get internal swept. With here, there's a lot of very tight action. With here, you get more accumulation or consolidation, and then I'd want to see some sort of distribution move. So we come up. You can see we sweep that internal level. We have displacement back down through here. We'll have a pullback to a fair value gap. I would expect a short to target these lows from this fair value gap. Now, again, if this fair value gap gets disrespected, I would expect the draw to be higher, but I think ES just continues to chop. There we go. We end up selling off to take those lows. Again, bigger time frame wise, if I'm looking at a 5-minute, I would want to see a bigger displacement, right? So this would be my market structure shift on a bigger time frame, but again, I'd have to see that candle continue lower. So then there we go. We end up coming up. Again, not really a lot of displacement. But if we come back into this 5-minute fair value gap, I'd want to see the reaction here, right? If we continue to reject, I could possibly see a short setup targeting these lows. Again, 5-minute time frame, we've broken through this low, displaced a little bit, not a lot. But if we continue to reject that 5-minute fair value gap, I would expect the draw on liquidity to be lower, especially if we break through this 1 minute fair value gap, right? So what I would be watching is to see if we break through this. There we go. We break through it. We retest that, acting as inverse, possibly expecting to see a sell-off to then take out that level, right? If we continue to have back up, then I would expect the draw to back be higher. And again, a lot of it, it's hard to tell with ES because I can't look at NQ at this time. And also looking at this action as well, this is not volume that we would want to be trading. We're kind of just doing a little replay session for just understanding draw sake. But again, looking at this action and how slow it is and how low volume, right? Look at kind of zoom. When we zoom in here, you can see how many equal highs and equal lows are, forming just because of such little volume, right? So that's something that we want to be careful of, especially when we're trading like this. Again, I would much rather trade NQ in this time than I would trade ES, right? So that's something that we want to be careful to. And then there we go. ES ends up taking that draw. Again, continuing to respect that 5 minute fair value gap. We end up taking out that low. And then I think, let's see, we're end up coming back up. Okay, so we can swept this low, right? Starting to have displacement back up. Now that would not be a bad long right here. Targeting equal highs. Again, we have equal highs up here. A lot of liquidity. We end up sweeping this low. We have displacement to the upside right here. We pull back to fair value gap. This would not be a bad long targeting that high. Nice little scalp. Once we get displacement back down after sweeping that, I would probably chill to take any sort of position. If there would be anything, it would be a short, again, after coming back up, sweeping those highs. But actually, we have, again, more 3 equal highs. That's why it's very hard to trade on ES when we have low action like this. Again, those equal highs probably going to get hunted still. There we go. Gets hunted. Displacement back down. Now that those equal highs are getting hunted, we have a big 15-minute fair value gap here as well. I would expect the draw to be back lower to see new lows, to be honest. Because, again, forming bearish model on a bigger time frame, we've come up, swept those highs. Now starting to form 15-minute fair value gap. We've now swept, now starting to reject. If we get displacement back down, I would expect the draw on liquidity to probably be this low. So we get displacement, kind of displacement, not really. I would still wait, not really take anything, and then you could see the draw then gets taken, but it doesn't look like there would really be any entry on ES. Again, this I wouldn't really take this as market structure shift, no displacement. We come back, again, no fair value gap, and then once we actually do get a fair value gap, there's no real displacement here. But this would end up becoming silver bullet, but I would not take this. This is PM silver bullet. The reason is, again, 2 o'clock. First fair value gap get created after a break, targeting opposing liquidity pool, but I would not take this because that low's already been swept, right? But you can see that this did provide 5 handles and more, the downside. Once we get bought back up. Again, I would be careful taking any sort of short here. If anything, I would probably be looking at more towards longs after sweeping that, especially now that we get displacement back to the upside. And then I think the rest of the day, we just kind of do not much. Yeah, okay. So some opportunity on ES. Let's take a look at NQ. Again, very slow action recently on ES. Taking a look at NQ at open. Let's take all this stuff up here. All right, we'll see if there's any quality setups. Again, going into the day, a little bit more bullish now that we're starting to sell off. We have all these imbalances, right? I would be waiting to probably see a bounce to the upside. If we do get a bounce to the upside, then I'd be looking to maybe see the displacement, right? What we could possibly do is, if we end up coming up, rejecting this fair value gap, I could maybe look to take a continuation short. But if we end up breaking through this, then I would expect the draw to be higher, right? I would expect it to probably be that high right there. So we'll continue here, put on 3. Right? Again, I was looking to see some sort of displacement. Now, we do get displacement here and a fair value gap right here. But since we are going into that bigger time frame, I'd want to see a little bit more structure. Once we end up coming back down, I'd want to see if this ends up holding or not. Right? Looking back as well, I want to see, did we retrace to discount? We have to the tick. We've retraced a discount. Again, we'll still want to see us come into this fair value gap, okay? Now what I'd see is, again, I'd want to see some sort of hold. So right now, again, not really looking to take anything. I'd go down to a 1 minute, right? I'd want to see displacement, just like similar to ES, right? Right now, again, still chopping. I would not look to take any sort of long until we get displacement back up, right? Again, draw would be that high. Sell side would be here. If we continue to respect, again, all these bearish fair value gaps are getting respected. Now we're starting to respect that 15-minute fair value gap. If we get displacement to the upside, then I would expect to see more long. There we go. This would be your long entry. Continuing to show that we're holding this 5-minute and 15-minute fair value gap. If we look at the 5-minute here as well, you can see these PD arrays are getting disrespected. We have a 5-minute fair value gap as well as this 15-minute bearish fair value gap, right? Now, if we're bearish and we expect the draw to be here, this 15-minute bearish fair value gap should get respected. But notice, we just ran right through it, right? So what would I expect? Possibly the draw to be this high. What do we wait for? Zoom into the 1-minute, wait for displacement above a high, right? We don't really have anything here. We have a high here. Comes up, rejects, comes up, rejects, comes up. Oh, we actually get a high. Wow, we're actually pushing through it. Okay, what do we look for? We look for a 1-minute fair value gap. Come in. That's your long entry. Okay, what are you targeting? Buy side above. And you can see, boom. Buy side ends up getting taken. So that's a possible trade you could have taken in the morning. Market opens. I think we had like a... There we go. Market opens. Again, just big push up. So now what am I expecting going into the day, right? If we're getting displacement above this level, right, I would expect these to be now market structure shift, especially now we swept this, right? What would I expect the draw to be? I would expect the draw to probably be any sort of equal highs up here. So again, all of this would be low resistance. I wouldn't really be watching here or here or here. I would probably be watching this external level. Again, all of this would become low resistance, right? So I wouldn't really expect us to come... I wouldn't expect us to come here and then reject. I wouldn't expect us to come here and then reject. I wouldn't expect to, to come here and then reject. I would possibly expect this, and the reason why I would expect that high is because we have relative equal highs here. We have more looking buy side here than we would from this. So these are the only highs that I would really be watching to see any sort of target. But again, looking at the 15-minute time frame, all of these fair value gaps get disrespected, right? Absolutely ran through. So market open. Again, I wouldn't really look to take a continuation play. I could with low size, but I think we just had kind of a runaway with NQ this morning. Again, no really fair value gap ever even actually got touched into. Oh, here we go. This would be a chase, but with this kind of action, again, this is a more advanced entry. And the reason why this is a more advanced long is because you have to get this kind of action to be able to take this kind of long. When you see market just absolutely explode and you see that it's a clear hunt on whatever that liquidity is, you know that whatever fair value gap gets touched into is probably going to be respected, and we're probably just going to bounce whatever to that draw is. So I'm expecting that to hold and then just, yeah, exactly, go straight towards that draw. But this is like the only action that you could expect that to actually happen. And the reason, and it's just because it's straight up action. I would never, ever really take that long. Now, even right now, even if I was to wake up and see this action today, I would probably maybe take it the half size, maybe lower, but I wouldn't take full size on this trade. This would be more of a test again, because again, it's not in discount. The only thesis for this would be I'm recognizing the strength and recognizing the action, and I expect the draw to just be taken pretty quick. So again, now going in, we've swept that external high. So now after that, the rest of the day, I'm going to be more bearish than I am bullish. So let price action play out for a bit. Again, what would I want to be looking for? I'd want to be looking for displacement down now, right? We swept that level. All right, so, okay, we put in a low here. What would I want to see? I'd want to see displacement through that level, right? All right, no low, right? Still no low being taken. Still no low. Still no low. All right, so there's, again, no short opportunity yet. Still no short. And I wouldn't be taking any sort of long, right? Any long above buy side after being taken is going to be low probability. So we're not looking at any sort of trade right now until we get displacement back down. Again, what am I looking for here? What are all these imbalances? Looking at the 1 minute, we have a lot of fair value gaps. So what am I expecting? Probably a 5-minute here. Okay, we have a 5-minute fair value gap. What would I be watching for? If I'm bearish, I want to see this 5-minute fair value gap get disrespected, right? I want to see us just go right through this. So what would I be watching for? I'd be watching to see us go right through this. So now what do we look for here? Kind of looks like we swept internal. Kind of have market structure shift here. Big displacement. Now pulling back. Maybe there's a fair value gap here. 5-minute, there is actually a very small 5-minute fair value gap that we're starting to reject. This to me is not the highest quality short. The only short I would take here is if we get a fair value gap here. So this would not be a bad short. It would be, but I probably wouldn't. It would not be a bad short. This would not be a bad short. Again, the reason why I say this would not be a bad short is because we're coming down. 5-minute fair value gap is still holding, right? But since we came up and we don't have displacement above this, and there's no really fair value gap that we're pulling back to, if we reject this, then I would expect the draw to be this low first, and I would expect, especially again, overlapping models, right? So we have again external swept. We're coming up. We start to displace back down, but we're still holding that 5-minute bullish fair value gap. So I could expect to bounce back up. So why would I take a short here? Well, we come up, right? If this was my market structure shift, I would expect a clean, push above this with a clean fair value gap created. Right here, we get a super tiny fair value gap that gets disrespected, right? So, okay, that's not really anything I'd want to see. So if we come up in this fair value gap, I'd probably see a rejection. So this could be, again, lower. I'd give this like a B setup. My stop, if I was in this, would be probably at the high, maybe a little bit above it, so in case it gets stopped. But I would probably be only looking to target this low. Maybe, yeah, probably like take off 75% here and then let the rest run to those lows. But again, this would be a little bit lower quality of a setup, but we'll see how that plays out. Looks good. And that would actually play out nicely. Okay, so bigger time frame wise, I'd want to see that market structure shift, right? So now this is clear to me that this now becomes market structure shift on a bigger time frame, right? That low that we just took out here, right? Now it becomes market structure. Wait, what are we noticing as well, right? 5-minute bullish fair value gap getting disrespected, right? 5-minute market structure shift, displacement to the downside. Okay, what would I be expecting? This possibly becoming inverse. We have a 5-minute fair value gap here. Okay, now that we're displacing back in this range, where could I expect us to probably go? Discount of this range, right? So I know we're probably going to retrace the discount of this range or any sort of PDR. Again, we have a lot of fair value gaps down here. So what would I be waiting for? Looking at the 1 minute. Again, wait for that 5-minute fair value gap to get retested. Okay, it gets retested. All right. So now, is there any possible short? Again, now that we come into this, I'd want to see this bullish fair value gap get ran through to the downside. There we go. Gets ran through to the downside. Okay, now what I look for, pull back to a fair value gap. Doesn't really look like we kind of sweep that low. Again, this would be a more low probability short. I probably wouldn't take this short. The reason is because we swept this low. But this probably would work out. This short probably would work out to go to discount, but I probably still would not take it. And actually it doesn't work out. So good. I would not take that. So that's a good thing, right? Again, especially once we reject this and we see this low being taken, any sort of short after a low gets taken, especially after this kind of fair value gap, it's going to be lower probability. So now this would possibly be a better short. Now that we've actually come up and swept this high, if we get displacement back down with a fair value gap, it would be a lot better. Way better. Okay, so this is a way better trade than that would be, right? Why? Because we've swept some sort of high. We've retraced back into discount. We've created new sell side, right? We didn't just sweep sell side. We have new sell side here. So this would be your short entry is once we come back into this fair value gap, this would now be your short. Again, stop at the high. What would you be targeting? This low. And then maybe leave a runner to discount. And then there you go. Again, using all that, we understand the draw is lower. We have market structure shift. We pull back to 5-minute fair value gap. Once we get the rejection, we have some sort of high being swept. We get displacement back down. We get a fair value gap. We understand that we're probably going to go to discount, and we have a clear draw to the downside. Aligning all of these things is when you're going to get high quality, quality setups like that again. But it's going to look completely different, right? That's why what's so good about our strategy is we can use the draw, we can use PD arrays, we can use, premium versus discount. We could use all of these things to create quality setups just based off of, the things we know. Like this is basically just a short model on a smaller time frame, right? We understand the draw is lower. We have a high being swept. We have displacement back down. You could say this is market structure shift here. You get a fair value gap and you target sell side, right? And you use a better understanding of the bigger time frame draw, right? Knowing we just swept external, we've had a market structure shift up here, we've had displacement back down. Adding that on to this is going to give you high quality, right? So then rest, again, I would probably be waiting. I would not look to take any sort of short now that we've come down and reached 50%. Again, we've just swept that low as well. So what I'd be watching for is probably displacement to the upside. There we go. Possibly expect this to maybe be a long. Again, lower quality long, but long targeting this high. We'll see if that fair value gap even gets tapped into. End up coming down. Again, this would be a lower quality long. I probably would not take this. And the only reason is because draw is still probably, again, we're in a small, big trend here. Even though we've come down and swept this, we have kind of a market structure shift. It wouldn't be a bad long. But again, I would kind of want to see us respect it first. So if we break through this, then I would expect the draw to be lower. But if we continue to hold this, then I expect it to be higher. So again, kind of waiting. Okay, now that we've actually respected this, now I'd look to maybe take it long. Now that we've continued to hold this, okay, now I would expect the draw to be higher. We'll see if we continue to hold this, but I don't really like that we came back down. I would probably, if we came back down to this and didn't take that high out first, again, if I was in a long here, I'd probably look to take something off here. But now that we've sold back into this, I'd probably be more careful, honestly. And actually, I would probably get stopped out at break even there, so I probably would be out of this. But we'll see if that high ends up getting taken. It doesn't end up breaking through. What would I expect the draw to be here? Probably that low. Unless we get market structure. There we go. I'm actually curious to see if we get an SMT here or not. I kind of want to look at the... Oh, actually. Uh-oh. Oh, there we are. Okay, well. NQ. I want to pull up ES. Were we forming a SMT here? We were. Okay, so that makes sense. I can kind of tell when we're forming SMT. Again, ES making a lower low, NQ. Higher low. Ends up getting bought up. Okay, what do I expect? If we get bought up here, I'd probably expect the draw to be higher. We have displacement back up, so I'm expecting this draw to or this high to probably get targeted. There we go. Forms equal highs. I would take it off there. If we form equal highs and then displace back lower, I'd take it off. I would not even wait because I'd probably yeah. So now if I was to take any sort of long targeting these highs, so this could now be a target for us. But if I was to look for any sort of targeted, actually, this would not be a bad long, but it'd be definitely more, actually, I probably still would not take that. It actually did work out. We did have a 5-minute fair value gap. Once we, continue to hold, we have displacement back up. Again, overlapping models, displacement back up, market structure shift. We have a 1-minute fair value gap. Pull back, continues to hold. Again, we kind of broke through it, and then we ended up rallying to take out those highs. So now, again, once we take out those highs, I'm still bearish. Again, expecting the draw to probably be here if we displace back in. If we break back up and break through these bearish PD arrays, then I would expect the draw to be higher. We displace lower. Again, expecting the draw. Again, no really short setup here, though, but I would expect the draw to be that low. Again, would wait for a displacement lower. We get the displacement, but no fair value gap entry here. But the draw ends up getting taken. And then again, silver bullet here. But again, I wouldn't take that silver bullet because that initial low has been taken. And then let's see anything the rest of the day. Now that we swept this low again, would expect the draw to be higher, especially once we break through this 1-minute bearish PD array. And there we go. Ends up taking that high. And that's pretty much all the action today. And then the rest of the day, we just kind of, that was pretty much it. Any questions on the action? What's up, Danny? What is your rank of PD array for how often you use them? Fair value gap is definitely number one. Fair value gap will always be number one. Is that the real Danny Trades? It is. You are music to my ears. Much love, Jason. All right. Let's talk about going into tomorrow. Let's clear up the charts a bit. All right, so looking at NQ first. Now, bigger time frame wise, I still am bullish until we end up breaking through. So again, looking at this right now, I'm bearish. The reason is unless we break through this. Again, looking at a 30-minute chart, we have a fair value gap, bearish fair value gap, still being respected. We've swept that high. We have displacement back down. We have a fair market structure shift pulling back. We're sweeping the highs. I would probably expect a draw. Again, I would want to see us come back down possibly to this low. But 4 hour, again, I'm still very, very bullish. I still think the draw on liquidity is that high. Like we discussed earlier, we do have an SMT here. But for me to actually recognize that this SMT is actually in favor, we'd have to break through this 4-hour fair value gap, right? And you can see we're already starting to respect it. We came down, had a big buy up. So what is that showing me? It probably is going to be this high is going to be the draw. Even though we have a bearish SMT, the only way I'm going to recognize that bearish SMT is going to actually push us lower is if we break through this 4-hour fair value gap. And so until that happens, I'm going to continue to be bullish until that high swept. Smaller time frame though, I'm bullish or bearish, right? Because we just swept that high. Displacement down, we're pulling back. I would expect us to probably see a little bit more of a sell-off going into tomorrow. But again, we'll see what happens in the when we wake up tomorrow and then we see the AM session and the kind of action that we got in the overnight session. So let's take a look at ES. Again, clear up the charts a little bit. So different thing on ES. Do want to be careful, and the reason is because on a bigger time frame, we have swept that high. And we have had displacement back to the downside now. So again, this would be on a bigger time frame, possibly our market structure shift. So we've had market structure shift, pulled back to this 1-hour fair value gap, again, continuing to reject. So I could possibly expect to see a sell-off tomorrow on ES, right? Now, again, the only thing I'd be watching for is I'd want to see if these fair value gaps get respected or not, right? Looking at the 30-minute, we have this big 30-minute fair value gap as well as, these inverse fair value gaps. Right, I would have to see these get disrespected, continue to the downside for me to expect us to continue short. But if we continue to hold like this, like where we are, we came down, we held, came down, we bounced again, we come down. If we bounce again, I would expect the draw to be these equal highs and then this overall high here. But if we continue to show that this overall bearish model is going to show strength, I would have to see these bullish PD arrays get broken through. So I need to see these fair value gaps get ran through, and then I would expect to see a continuation sell-off tomorrow. Make sense? But if we continue to hold, then I would look to be taking longs to target highs. Any questions? How are you clearing your charts by just clicking on the lines? You click your middle mouse button. So, like your scroll wheel, you click it on whatever it is and it'll delete it. Daily looks like this. We're currently in a daily fair value gap, in a big daily fair value gap. So. All right, guys. That is all I have for you guys tonight, I think. Aren't ES and NQ supposedly move in correlation together? They do, sometimes they don't. Again, when they're not in correlation, though, that's when we want to be weary of action, right? Because that was, our problem last week is ES and NQ were very not in connection, no correlation between each other, and that is what causes a lot of choppy action. So when they are aligned is when you're going to get quality and better market conditions. Yes, I do plan on doing a prop firm challenge in the future with the Discord. I do plan, probably in the coming weeks, to be honest. I plan on making a video about it, a setup video, so everybody can watch it, and it'll be easy for everyone to set up and get an evaluation, and then we'll start it. We'll set a specific start date, and then we'll do that whole thing. But probably expect in the coming weeks. All right, guys. Hope you enjoyed this session. I will see you all tomorrow morning. Enjoy the rest of your night, guys. Let's finish the week off nice, even though actually kind of starting the week, I guess. Starting late in the week because we haven't really done anything. But let's have a good Thursday. So enjoy the rest of your night, guys. I'll see you tomorrow. Peace.